Welcome race fans to this week's Graham Brown interview, and this week we're talking to National Hot Rod driver number 95, Gavin Murray. Welcome, Gavin.
Hiya, how are we doing, okay?
Yes, very well, thank you. And first thing I suppose I should ask you is, how did you get into racing? I mean, I know your dad was racing back in the early 70s with a purple Anglia. I remember seeing him, so was it just kind of natural progression for you, or how did it come about?
Yeah, pretty much. It's always been involved with the family. Dad actually started racing at a little local track, Peasnall. Probably a lot of people have heard about that, which was a dirt track just for locals just to have a run round. Really, he started there, then progressed to the nationals with the Anglias and the escorts, like you say. And so that's something I've always been around. And I started about 14 in the mini stocks and just done a few years on that. Didn't really enjoy it. Couldn't really get going with a front wheel drive car, and then we progressed on to a 1300. Done that for a number of years and really enjoyed it. You know, like you say, it's just something that's in your family, and you always try and sort of carry on. It just seemed the natural way to go, really.
So when you say the 1300, you mean a 1300 stock car, presumably?
Yeah, that's right, 1300 stock car. Yeah.
So why did you then decide to make the leap to non-contact racing in lightning rods? It was lightning rods you went into from that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I think the main sort of push was obviously the long-term plan was always to go hot rod racing. That's something that I'd obviously mechanic for Dad when he was racing a national. And I think we had a season where I'd lost 2 or 3 championships by getting spun out by back markers, and I thought, well, if I move to non-contact, obviously this won't happen. But you know that still does happen, unfortunately. But yeah, we then went on to the lightning rods and done that for a number of years and really enjoyed it. Yeah,
So what finally made you decide then, OK, now's the time to go into national hot rods?
It just seemed the right time at that time. I'd just come out of the forces and I was coming home and doing the odd lightning rod meeting, not really committed to it. And I'd then just left the forces and thought, well, now's the time. If we're going to go racing, let's do it and try and do it properly. So we went and had a hot rod built by Alan Dent, and that sort of got us out there and rolling and got a feel of where we needed to be, really.
You just told me something I didn't know, because you said about the forces. What branch of the forces were you in and what were you doing?
I was in the Royal Marines, done 5.5 years in the Royal Marines, so yeah, we've done a fair bit, went here, there and everywhere, and so that was quite interesting time, and you know, that's something that I think I needed to do, and that sort of gives you a bit more broader picture of life, really.
Marines, that's pretty tough stuff. Where did you go with them?
Went to Iraq in 03 when we went in there for the second time. Went a few other places, but Iraq was the main one, really, which was quite interesting sometimes, to say the least.
I think interesting is an understatement. So national hot rod racing must seem fairly boring after that some of the time.
Well, it can do, yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that actually helps me because in the forces, anybody will tell you, or any sort of armed services, you've got to be very focused all the time. I mean, that's a 24/7 job, and I think that's helped me to a certain degree in the nationals. That's the same. You have to be focused, and you have to have a clear goal to try and achieve that. I haven't quite achieved it yet, but we're still pushing, and that's what we're trying to get there. You know.
I can remember an NEC interview that I did some years ago. I remember saying during the interview that you were the one to watch, and I guess in many respects you still are. You kind of moved on a bit from there. What do you think you need to do now to make the jump to being considered a regular championship winner?
Just a little bit more consistency. I'm still looking for the top end sort of pace. We're just still lacking just that little bit of pace. We've found a lot in the last sort of 12 months. We've moved on a long way, but we just need that little bit more to really challenge for the big meetings. And instead of qualifying sort of 8th and 9th, we want to be 3rd and 4th, and that's where you've got to be to win the big ones. I mean, we qualified 6th at the World Final, and that just wasn't good enough on the day. The car wasn't good enough in the lap times, and it wasn't good enough probably in the first 25 laps. The last 25, different matter. The car is, you know, it just comes into its own, and I come into my own, I think, a little bit. But that's something you've always got to try and learn, to try and set the car up a slightly different way and come away from slightly what you know and what's tried and tested to try a slightly different setup. And that's sometimes that's a bit hard to do because you're taking a bit more of a risk, you know. But that's something we're going to have to do in the next few years, is to keep pushing and try and find that.
Yeah, you said that when you started out, Alan Dent built your first car. Tell us something about that.
Yeah, I mean, we approached Alan. We didn't really know too much about nationals. National hot rods have progressed so far from when my father was racing. He couldn't relate to them at all. They're totally and utterly different with, you know, from the basics, you know, right the way through. So we approached Alan, and he had a few ideas of what he wanted to try and put into a hot rod. Not all of them worked, some, but we gave it a good go, and that also gave us a chance to get out there and get a feel of it, and that steered us into the direction of that we needed to perhaps improve on the car. And then the next step was to go to a head chassis. They were only an hour away, and that's the route we went down in the end.
Yeah, did you not have two Peugeot 206s initially? One, the Alan Dent car, and then the Head car.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had the Head car built, the 206cc, just to replace the Alan Dent car. Really, I mean, the Alan Dent car was brilliant in the wet, but it wasn't quite quick enough in the dry, and we felt in order to improve it, we'd have to do so much. So that was probably quicker and easier and cheaper to actually build a new car. So that's the route we went down.
So why the switch then subsequently to the Tigre B?
A lot of people have asked me that, and the honest answer is I don't really know. We got offered a chance of a chassis. David put a good deal to us. At that time, we were very, very happy with the CC, but we felt we were getting to the end of the development of it, and we were perhaps looking to try and something a bit radical, or indeed go to a new car. And like say, David from Head Motorsport offers us a chance of a Tigre, and that's the route we went down. And for a long while, we'd made, that was the wrong decision. That took us probably 12 months to get it back to the pace of the CC, and then obviously we're now trying to progress past that. So that's probably cost us a year, but in that year we've learnt so much that was also the right decision. We've learnt so much about setup and where you need to be that that was, in the long term, that's going to pay dividends, I think.
Yeah, there was a period of time there where it looked like you'd made entirely the wrong decision, but you've obviously changed your mind about that now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's some meetings I just couldn't do anything with it, and you've got to score points in every single race, and finish every race. And there's a lot of times we were pulling off because I just couldn't drive the car. And when you get into that situation, you then start to doubt yourself. Is it me? Am I not pushing it hard enough? Am I trying to set it up the wrong way? So you ask yourself so many questions, and then you have to sort of knuckle down and try and make it work. You've invested all this money in a new car, so you've got no choice but to make it work. And with all the help from the lads who helped me and Dad and everybody else, we've really sort of knuckled down and we've made it work. And something that when I came into Nationals, I really wanted to try and do it myself, try and learn myself, and to come from a lightning rods where basically if they've still got all the wheels on it, that's good enough. To go to a national to try and make it, to try and find these final points set up is quite hard to do. So I've always wanted to try and do it myself, and that's the route we're going down. We've had a lot of help, a lot of guidance from Head Motorsport and from Chris, but obviously everybody drives differently. Everybody's cars are always different. That's been proven with ex-world champions cars that other people don't necessarily do as well as what other drivers do.
Yeah, it's obviously, you were saying about maybe trying something a bit radical to go faster. Had you thought about maybe a change of engine, perhaps a Duratec, something like that?
Yeah, we had toured the idea of a Duratec. We've got as a local engine builder who actually specialises in the Duratec, but as yet I haven't really seen one that can beat a Vauxhall, and I think a lot of the parts in the engine are a little bit more expensive than the Vauxhall. We've got a workshop full of Vauxhall's engines, so that just seemed logical to keep with that, really. I don't know if in the future if they're going to allow any other sort of forms of engine. I know a few people are talking about the Honda VTEC, which would be ballistically quick, I think, but whether they'd ever allow that route to, I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that would be quite a radical shift. You're currently riding pretty high in the points. Presumably your ambition is to just stay that way till around about next June or July. Yeah,
we just want to keep scoring points. We've had quite a good start to the year, but as well as I do, that doesn't always last. We've just got to keep trying to score. You haven't got to win every race. As long as you're in the score and in positions, I think you're going to be somewhere there at the end. And we've got to be in Group 1 if you're going to stand a chance of winning a championship. You've got to be Group 1, I think. We've come from the back before, but that's a lot harder to do when you're a little bit further down the field, and you tend to pick up a few black crosses and stuff, because you're trying so hard to get through, and all the time the front pack are just getting further and further away from you, so you've got to be there or thereabouts at the start, I think.
So ambitions for this year, obviously, to try and win some of those championships, I guess? Yeah,
exactly, yeah. I mean, we went over for the British and the Irish Open just a couple of weeks ago. Car was going well. Malcolm made me look a bit silly, to be honest, on the restart of the British Championship, and that wasn't meant to be. But we'll keep going. We've still got the European this year, and obviously the Points Championship, and then we're obviously looking ahead for the World Final next July.
Well, good luck with that, Gavin. Thank you very much indeed for coming to speak to us.
Lovely. Thank you very much.